Hi, I'm Crystal Land, the Assistant Head of School here at Head-Royce, and my guest this evening is Dr. Madeline Levine, and she is going to answer a few questions about her latest book, Teach Your Children Well.
Sure.
So perhaps we'll start with a question about middle school children. What's an effective approach for connecting with a middle schooler when they walk in the door after school?
Leave them alone. Middle, it's interesting that people think high school is going to be the most difficult age, but it's really middle school. It's really sort of puberty where kids run into a lot of emotional stuff, and there is more conflict in the house. So you want to stay connected. One of the ways you stay connected, I think, with middle school kids is to give them a little space to recover from the day, which usually tends to be kind of dramatic, and then approach them. But usually when they come home from school, I think they need really to chill out and be left alone, and they'll come to you if they need you, and you can have your conversation later.
I've also found it's helpful to give them food.
Food, yes.
Yeah. Food and distance.
Right, food and distance.
Yeah. And then going back down to the lower school children, what do you see as some of the most valuable of your sort of essential skills for children in the youngest grades?
Well, self-control, first of all, and I think we often don't pay enough attention to that. So if you're going to be a successful kindergartner, you have to not, grab the kid next to you's paper or crayons or truck or whatever. You have to be willing to wait online at the water fountain. And I think that very often parents have some difficulty with setting the kind of limits that lead to self-control. So I think we have a propensity to talk a lot when our kids sort of misbehave, and let's talk this out, as opposed to setting the limit. And setting the limit is critically important for young kids because it's the only way they really get to internalize a no about something. So if I had to pick one thing for younger children, it would probably be self-control, and along with that, the teaching of empathy. Well, what would it be like? You just grabbed your friends. What do you think that's like? What do you feel like when that happens? So I think it's flip sides of the same issue of being able to stand in somebody else's shoes and control yourself.
We've also talked about how parents should know themselves. And is that a place where they could model self-control in making good decisions?
Sure, and I think, frankly, all the way through, it's a good idea if parents can talk about their own frustrations and how they manage them, because we have frustrations every single day, whether it's, something's at the dry cleaner and we can't wear it, or we didn't get the raise we want, whatever it is. And I think we could do so much more in terms of letting kids know what adulthood actually looks like, and how manageable it is, and how even fun it can be.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what about for those parents of high school students like myself? What are some strategies we can employ when we find that our students are very, very concerned with those external markers of academic success, like grades and college admittance and high test scores?
So, the culture is seeped right now in that. It's interesting, I noticed on the Head-Royce thing when I was coming here tonight, it says kids are stressed, as if that's coming, like, kids are stressed from what? They're stressed from the school culture, they're stressed from the home culture, and they're stressed in the general culture. So, we shouldn't be surprised that they incorporate and internalize some of these things. I think it's really important to keep it low-key. They're getting that message everywhere, so I don't think home should be the place. I see home as a haven. I really think that the tasks of growing up are big, and they take a lot of energy, and that in the real world, really what you want is your child to do. We all want our kids to do well, but we also want them to have coping skills, to be resilient, to be good people, to have friends, to grow up, all those.
To be happy.
To be happy, right. And so, from my point of view, home has to be the place where that doesn't happen. Which isn't to say that it's like no standards or low standards or anything like that, but when your kid walks through the door, it's not, so how'd you do today? What was your grade? What's your GPA? That's very short-term parenting. So my kids are older than your kids. I have one left in college and two out of college. And I think if we remind ourselves that the task is turning out kids 20 years down the road, as opposed to at the end of the quarter, it's a lot easier to hold back and be curious about the child, not about their performance.
And do you have any sort of final advice for those of us who might have a backslide, a bad moment of hyper-parenting?
Oh gosh, I'm going to open with this tonight,
Okay.
But as I'm driving over here, you know, speaking is very easy for me, but you never know how you're going to open. And about 2 minutes away from here, my youngest son calls me and says, there were these scientific experiments on the brain in the 50s in terms of short-term memory. Who's the doctor who did that? And I said, why are you asking me? And he says, it's easy. And I said, I'm about to talk to 200 people about how you don't answer that question. Thanks for my opener. And that's the reality. We all backslide. And we all make mistakes. And most of them don't really matter. Kids are forgiving and resilient. The problem is when it becomes a pattern.
Right.
So, you know, give yourself, all of us, we all have to give ourselves a break. Moms, we tend to be tough on ourselves. We should be modeling a kind of generosity towards the mistakes everybody makes in life.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.